Now that's original.
I remember the day that I met you. Everyone wanted me to forget you, but like the fool I am, I didn't understand. I didn't believe a word was true. Now I know your love is cold. I could never hold you. Now I know just how far you go to break a poor boy's heart in two. I remember the night I told you how I felt. You didn't have too much to say. Well, I'd like to know why you let me go so long. If you never felt the same way, now I can see you were never for me. We think much too differently. Now I can tell life with you would be hell, and I'm gonna set my heart free. I'm gonna set my heart free. Hey there, Acorns, and welcome back to Original Thursdays. Hope you enjoyed that little ditty, as some of you all call songs like that I wrote back in my teenage years. And I want to share a little bit with you about that song, although there's not a whole lot to that song. Before I do that, a few things I want to share with you. I normally don't do videos on Wednesdays. As you know, we do Tuesdays and Thursdays primarily, but certain special occasions we do other videos. Like in March, we do our story song series. Well, yesterday, Wednesday, the 16th of July, that was Pap's birthday, so I did upload a song yesterday for that. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. A lot of the stuff that I do, honestly, I'm not very happy with sometimes, and some of it I'm even quite displeased or a little bit embarrassed. But I did really like how that video came out yesterday. The guitar playing, the singing, and just the overall feeling of it. Because to me, being more left brain, I guess you'd say, I'm not a very mathematical person. To me, music is much more about feeling than it is about anything else. Now, other people approach music more mathematically, but I don't even know why I got into that. But anyway, if you haven't seen that video, put a link in the description below, or you can just go to the Blind Pig channel and go to the video prior to this one. But I wanted to mention that. Another thing that I will share, Lord willing, for Old Timey Tuesday in the near future, I'll be doing a song with Mr. Caleb Dykes. I'm really excited about that. We're going to do an old song for you. I haven't checked it, but by the sound of the song, I'm going to say it's probably from the 40s, maybe the 30s, but probably from the 40s. And I'm excited because Caleb he's good at any kind of music. It doesn't matter. It could be heavy metal or it could be bluegrass. It doesn't matter. Caleb can play it all. But it seems like that old music that has somewhat of a jazz feel to it is especially kind of, as they say, in his wheelhouse. So I'm excited about that. Also on Old Timey Tuesday down the road, Lord willing, I'm going to do a song with my first cousin, Maria Campbell. It'll probably be a gospel song, and we'll sing a little two-part harmony for you. When I was maybe about 17, 18, and so therefore Maria would have been 15, 16, maybe I was more like 18, 19, and she was more like 16, I can't remember. But we sang a little bit together back then. A few songs, and even recorded those songs up at Wade Powell's studio that he had back in the day in Young Harris, but we never did anything with them, and we kind of never pursued it any further. But it sounded pretty good for two-part harmony, so I'm hoping that this will sound good. She's a phenomenal singer, and she appeared in a video that I did a couple of years ago. I think it was 2023, September 2023. We did a 50th anniversary video of the Words of Life album, and she participated in that because she was one of my Uncle Ray's daughters, and then one of our other cousins, Brian, who was one of my Uncle Henry's children. We got together and talked about the Words of Life video, kind of reflected back on it after 50 years. So when I do that video with Maria and we sing together, I'll put a link in that description where you can go back and see that video. One other thing I'll share before I tell you about the song that you just heard. Our good friend and one of my musical heroes, Mr. Doyle Dykes, he just got back from California recently, where he went out there and played in some church services, some really big church services. And it was kind of neat because he got to meet one of, I guess you'd say, one of his heroes. More of a, not a musical hero, but more of a teaching hero of the Christian faith, Mr. John Maxwell. So in the description in the notes of this video, even though what I just sang for you is clearly not a gospel song, I'll put a link to one of the videos that I got to watch. And Doyle comes in at the very end, but if you're not familiar with John Maxwell, you probably enjoy his message too. It's about a 20 or 30 minute message, and it's all about encouragement for Christians and the framework that he used. And I think it's an abbreviated lesson that he normally does in a lot more detail, but he pulls out different important figures from the Bible and kind of based on the Bible tells you what those individuals would tell you if they could speak to you as a Christian and try to encourage you in your life and in your walk, so to speak, with the Lord. So that will be down in the description below. And if you get to the end, I don't know the young lady's name who sang with Doyle, but she did an amazing job and they did Amazing Grace. So check that out. All right, the song that you just heard was really early song that I wrote, and Pap, he used to sometimes sit around on the couch and he would kind of finger pick a little bit and sing a little bit on an old Flatt and Scruggs song called the Salty Dog Blues. And in these days that I'm talking about, I was still just learning the chords of a guitar. And of course, usually you learn G first and then maybe D and C. And Pap would do that song, that Salty Dog Blues. I think he would do it in either A or E, and it had what I call a fourth chord. In other words, most songs, or a lot of songs, just have three. Of course, some have two, but some just have three chords. So if you're talking about G, and you only had a three-chord song, most of the time it would probably be G, C, and D. Now, if it went to A before going to D, that's what I would call a fourth chord, not because that's what it's called when musicians kind of use a certain code to communicate to each other. I call it a fourth chord simply because it's an extra chord beyond the three that you would typically have. So because Pap would do that Salty Dog Blues, if you've never heard that song, here's a line or two of it. I don't know if this is the right key. Down in the wildwood, sitting on a log, finger on the trigger and the eye on a hog. Honey, let me be your salty dog. Let me be your salty dog, or I won't be your man at all. Honey, let me be your salty dog. So when you hear that, you can kind of see why and how I wrote my song. I was kind of like, boy, I like that, how it goes to that extra chord, which in this case is, it goes to a couple of extra chords, what I would call extra chords. This first one here is that's F sharp. So it goes to F sharp and then B7 and then E and then back to A. Never really even goes to D. Now my song does go to D first and then it goes to those same chords. Not exactly in the same manner or with the same timing, and I don't think that the two songs have the same melody or same tune. I don't think you would hear that first song that I sang for you and think, that sounds like Salty Dog Blues. But it is the same part of the same chord pattern. So I was wanting to kind of create something of my own that had those, what I call extra chords in there. And at the time, it was pretty challenging for me to get those chords. And it's not really all that biographical. It's partly biographical. I was a freshman in high school, and I was sitting in a classroom with a friend, well, not a real close friend, but somebody that I would describe as a friend that I was getting to know. And we were looking at some sort of flyer that the Students Against Drunk Driving, or Students Against Drunk Drivers, had put out. You've probably heard of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. This was SAD, Students Against Drunk Driving. And it was mostly girls, high school girls, our age, who were on this, that were part of this group, and it kind of had the officers listed at the top. You know, there was like a president and a vice president and a secretary and so on. And he wasn't being critical. He was more just like talking about the irony of it. And we were looking at the names down there, and they were all girls that were popular and attractive. And he was going down the list, and he was, and he, again, I don't mean any harm of any of those people, and I'm sure none of them are watching this video, so I don't have to worry about that. But he was going down the list, and he was saying, drunk, 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 drunk. And I was like, no way. You know, I did not believe that everybody, all the members of that group, that they were all heavy consumers of alcohol. But he knew that to be true. And I was like, no way. Now, he wasn't even really saying that there was anything hypocritical about it, because of course you can consume alcohol and use it, I guess, to be intoxicated but still not drive. I have some adult friends now who are that way. They drink, but they would never drink and then get in their vehicle and go down the road and endanger someone's life. But it just blew my mind, especially we were just freshmen, you know. And I was coming from a little K-8 school out in the country, and I guess I was pretty innocent. Now, he was coming from a K-8 school out in the country, too, that was very small and isolated. And it actually closed right after I think he might have been one of the last 8th grade classes to graduate. But he was a football player, whereas I was not. And so he was a little more tapped into that culture there at the high school, and he knew kind of who did what. Now, as far as the song talks about, people tried to warn me, that's not really the case. But a girl that I wound up dating shortly after that was on that list. And you would never, just like the other girls, you would never, if you just went to school with her, thought that she was a heavy drinker of alcohol. Never would have thought that, because very put together, well-mannered, very well-mannered, very health conscious, wouldn't even drink a soft drink, whereas I drank them all the time. Practically every meal I was drinking some kind of Coke. It's what in the South, we mostly say a Coke, even if we're talking about a Pepsi or an RC. We don't really say soda or soda pop. I've got cousins up in Ohio and Michigan who say that. But anyway, she would not drink a Coke, a soft drink of any kind, because it was bad for you. Very health conscious about what she ate and everything, yet she would consume hard alcohol in a lot of volume. Now, it wasn't just her. I don't mean to just pick on her. It was pretty much everybody, or the majority of people in that class. But anyway, that partially inspired part of the song, because then when I wound up dating her, I was like, well, he was right. I didn't believe him, but he was right about what he said, about the people, the young ladies on this list. So that kind of inspired that first part of that song. And I don't know why I came up with the life with you would be hell. That's maybe a little too harsh, but I think it's funny. And it's just a lighthearted song, upbeat song. And the last part, I did find out also that in terms of different outlooks on things, whether it be politics or whatever, we did think very differently. And even though there were a lot of things that that were good, like we had a similar sense of humor and there was attraction there and all that, it would not have worked in any long-term sense because we were very different-minded. So that's where that little ninth grade song came from. Now, if you've been watching the original Thursday for a while, you may be saying, well, when are we going to hear more of Pap's songs? And that's a good question. You may not be, if you haven't been thinking that, I've been thinking that, like, when am I going to do another song of Pap's? Partly the reason I've been going and just jerking out sort of these random songs that I wrote when I was young. It's not because I think they're all that great. It's I'm willing to do them with really no kind of arrangement or practice, and just kind of throw them out there. Most of the time with Pap's songs, I'd rather try to do something a little more put together. Now, I may say that and still procrastinate and not get around to doing any kind of arrangement and just basically have to do the same thing with his and just kind of do them a little bit on the rough side. But anyway, that's why I've been featuring more songs like this here lately, is I've thought, well, the next song, whatever it's going to be of Pap's that I do, I want to work it out a little bit more rather than just doing it off the cuff. But thank you for watching Original Thursday. Lord willing, next Tuesday we'll have an old-timey song for you. And I hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend.